I grew up in Muncie, Indiana. Lived there until after I was married, and my husband and I moved away then to the Indianapolis area. But from the time I was born until the time that he and I moved away in, I guess that would have been 2001, because it was right before 9/11 that we moved to Greenfield. So for a long time, lived in the Muncie area, went to Delta High School, went all the way through the Delta schools from kindergarten to 12th grade. Had a great experience there, really enjoyed high school. We were proud of our school. It was the school that all my brothers and sisters had gone to. In fact, my brother is 20 years older than me. He was part of the first graduating class at Delta. So we have kind of like a proud tradition there. So I had a really good experience as a high school student. I am the last of 6 children. So that older brother is 20, and they are all about 2 years apart. So the closest sibling to me is 11 years older than me. I was definitely a great surprise to everyone. A funny story in our family is that my mom, she repeats the story over and over again, so it's become like a mantra in our family that I was the icing on the cake. And so my brothers and sisters make a lot of fun of me for being the icing. Oh, that's the icing talking. And so that's become quite a family joke in our family. Between my siblings, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, I think one time we counted up that there are like 23 educators in the last 2 branches basically of my family tree. And when I was in student teaching, I remember I had 2 different supervising teachers, and one of them said, "It was like you were born to do this." And I thought, well, sort of. Like born into that. My mom actually didn't get a college degree, and so she was never a teacher, but then she taught Sunday school for something like 45 years. So it was kind of in her as well. And my dad was an educator and administrator, worked till he was 64, I believe, in the schools. And so, it's just kind of part of who I am from my DNA on up. I went to Ball State for my undergraduate. I really wanted to go to IU or Purdue and get out of Muncie, but my family was like, why would you leave the premier teaching institution in our state? And so I went to Ball State and graduated from there in 1992, and then worked in Muncie, and then at Blue River Valley, and then at Eastern Hancock, and then at West Noble. So that's where I went to my undergrad. I did get my graduate degree in counseling from IUPUI, so I went there for the graduate degree, and then I taught again for a decade before I actually used my counseling degree. This is my first year at West Noble, and I have really enjoyed my time here. It is similar in a lot of ways to the school that I was most recently at, Eastern Hancock, and I was there for 13 years. And it's slightly smaller. We only had 400 in the high school, but I would say very similar in atmosphere as far as the teamwork that goes on among the staff, and kind of the relational focus that the staff has with their students, and the way the students feel with their teachers. I will never forget my son going to college at the University of Kentucky and talking about his teachers and his administrators, and his friends saying, like, "What are you talking about? You talk about them like you know them." And many of them had come from great big school environments or very cold school environments, and they couldn't imagine having like fun stories about their teachers and things. And I pick up on that same attitude or atmosphere here, that these students, they feel that they have friends in their teachers and their administrators, people that they can rely on. And I have had students say things to me. I had somebody pass me in the hall today that I had both first and second trimester, and I don't have now. And they said, "Hi, Mrs. Brown, I miss you," and so that atmosphere among the students and among the faculty has been very familiar to me and has made me feel like I fit here. I have been welcomed with open arms by everyone. I have felt very supported and checked up on in my department, by the administration, by you, Mike. I mean, I just feel like there's a conscious effort to reach out to new faculty members and make sure that there's a foundation there that leads to being able to go ask the questions that need to be asked and just really feel comfortable. And I needed a new start for various reasons that are no one's fault. It was time for me to move on from where I was, and so it's just been like a breath of fresh air to be someplace new. I think that everybody's heart here is really in the right place, and so it's not a matter of feeling like, you know, every answer can be answered, or I'm sorry, every question can be answered. You know, we've got the same problems here that are going on in education all over the nation and maybe all over the world. We're trying to rebound from this pandemic. We've got, you know, how do we meet the needs of kids when we really maybe don't even understand all those needs yet, and how do we get back on track but in a better way? And so I think there are lots of questions that don't have easy answers, but I feel like there is an attitude of we're going to keep working to solve problems for kids, and, you know, look for those best solutions and see each individual student as a student, and as a person, an individual, and I have really, really appreciated that, and so I feel like I can fit into that culture because that's the way I believe. I don't believe the solutions are easy, and I don't believe we're going to get to them quickly. I just think we walk through each day and we say, how do I meet as many of these students' needs as possible on this day? And then the other thing I guess I would really applaud West Noble for is the attitude of do not overwhelm yourself. And I have been in a situation where there was a little bit of a feeling that if you weren't overwhelmed, you probably weren't working hard enough. And that is not sustainable. And I think it's a problem across education right now. But I have felt from several different people at West Noble the permission to say, here is my boundary, and now I'm going to go and rest. And I'm going to, you know, make sure that I am as healthy as I can be in order to be what these kids need. And that doesn't mean overwhelming myself or working when it's not time for me to be working, and those kinds of things. And honestly, that was a big piece of what was hurting me before. And maybe some of that was my own fault. Maybe it wasn't the fault of any part of the culture, but it was, I've talked to enough people coming out of that culture to know that other people felt that way too. And I have really appreciated not having that feeling here. I have had various mentors in different parts of my life that I really look back on, and a lot of them have gone out of my life for different reasons. You know, some have passed away, some have moved away, I've moved away from some, but I really do, I value what they added to my life at each individual part of my life. And I'm in kind of a funny phase now because I don't have young children at home, so my experience even in finding a new church is very different from what it has been in the past. And I'm needing to build relationships with people without that natural connection of our kids are involved in the same activities. So I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. How do you build those connections when it's just about the people I interact with or my husband interacts with, or, it's just a very different feeling. My immediate family, I have my husband here with me. He moved with me, obviously, and so it's the two of us alone, which is brand new because during the 18 months that we were really in the pandemic, the stay-at-home part of it, we had all 4 of our adult children living with us in our house. And so instead of they trickled away slowly in order to get used to being empty nesters, we were all together, and now we're all apart. And so that has been an interesting transition. I was ready for it in many ways. 6 adults in one house is too many. But I also sometimes kind of feel like, where is everyone? Or did I leave them somewhere? Like you had all these children and now they're nowhere. Did I actually forget and leave my children somewhere? So that has been very strange, learning how to parent from afar and parent adult children has been an interesting balance that I have been learning. And so, I really feel very much like I am in a transition in my life and kind of trying to figure out what this looks like now. But I would say that I'm at peace with that transition, and maybe more than any other time in my life, I'm very much at peace for looking for what God has next, and I always have been such a planner, and I would have told you in my last job I was going to work there till I retired, and then the pandemic happened and everything changed, right? And now I feel very much at peace that whatever the path is, God will reveal it and I will walk down it, and that is a nice place to be. So my husband is Kevin. He works at Eli Lilly. He gets to work at home now about half the time. He's been working at home since 2020, but he is beginning to transition back into going to Indianapolis. So a couple nights a week he will be there, staying with various family members that we have in the area. And then I have a son, Jacob, and he is 26. He went to the University of Kentucky and got a degree in materials engineering, and he works in Indy at the Rolls-Royce plant. And then I have a daughter, Elizabeth, who just turned 24. She got a degree in marketing at Ball State, but then she came out right as the pandemic was beginning and didn't get a job. So she has decided to go back and get a master's degree in clinical counseling, and she's doing that at the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. So she's in Colorado Springs, 1,000 miles away, all by herself with her cat. So that's been an interesting transition. And then I have Abby, who is somewhere between her sophomore and junior years because she's changed majors a couple of times. She's at Ball State in Ed. And then I have Katie, who began at Purdue this year as a freshman in nursing, but has decided that Purdue is too big for her. So she's in the process of transferring to Ball State, where she'll still be in nursing. But I think she wants to be a little closer to her sister, and she feels comfortable there. We're such Muncie people that feels like a comfortable environment to her. So she's going to make that transition. The Bible verse that has always meant the most to me is trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. And I guess, there have been times in my life when that has been easier to do than others. I have walked through some pretty significant difficulties with raising one of our children, and there were times when it seemed pretty hopeless. But I was glad at that time to have a faith that allowed me to say, I sure don't understand where this is going right now, but I'm just going to keep trusting. And so that, I would say that is something that I try really hard to live by. I think, and I alluded to this earlier, I think that the ability to see students as individuals and to not hold them or ourselves accountable for fixing everything right this minute is something that I have learned as an education professional. I've over the years become very process oriented, and that allows me to give myself grace and allows me to give my students grace, and to really think about this idea of it's really about the progress we make, and some people are going to make quick progress and some people are just barely going to make any progress. But if we can help them to tap into anything that is progress, we're helping them succeed, and honestly, we're succeeding. And that has brought me such a sense of peace over the years as I have settled into that more, because I have a tendency to maybe over-plan with a destination in mind. And then when I'm not reaching that destination, I can become really stressed out and really get down on myself. But as I have learned to let go of that idea, I mean, obviously you have to plan for a goal. We're not going to get anywhere without a goal. But allowing myself to focus instead on, what's the path look like and what did we gain by walking down that path has been really, really helpful. And I stepped into these dual credit courses, and earlier in my career, I would have drowned, because I would have been so focused on some end goal that I had set, and it would have been hard to get there and hard to get the kids there. But I have just really enjoyed our journeys this year, and I think we still accomplished a lot. I hope they feel like we accomplished a lot, but just settling in and watching them grow and letting them teach me, and working together and rethinking and revisiting things when we felt like they didn't go right, and revising where we thought we were headed along the way has been so valuable, and I hope valuable for them as well.